Hey everybody, welcome back to the second time we've been going over this lovely Dark Sun Monsters Compendium from AD&D. We found some hidden gems last time. It was nuts. So we had the waterfall elemental, which was crazy because according to this thing, waterfall elemental, or they called it a rain elemental, it is a constantly falling waterfall, sort of circles around itself, and to move, it won't move as a circle, at least not in my head. It sort of like snakes through the air, and if it gets close to you, if it gets close to any water source, it'll pick up that water and rip it out of the riverbed or the pond or puddle or whatever, and this includes the blood inside people's bodies. So, that was nuts. Don't get too close to this thing or it'll rip your blood out of you. And that's how it did damage mostly. And I thought that was super cool, and I'm hoping we can find some other crazy gems in here. So what I did last time was I rolled D100s for every time we were going to go through a new monster. This time, I'm just going to go and click at random and see if there's anything that sort of catches my eye. Because most of these names, like Miordi, no idea what that is. Let's go find out on page 70. Miordi. Okay. What are these things? Usually they have a piece of art. Oh, what? So, undead Victorian lady with a golden sword. This is going to be very interesting. I saw Bodax were mentioned. Those exist in 5th edition already. They sort of like these gaping mouth, dark undead that I think will suck out your soul. Something nuts like that. Here it says Lawkeeper of Bodach. I thought that was Bodak. It might be the same thing. I know they changed a lot of spellings between editions. But let's figure out what this lady can do. Let's see. Evil. That's almost a given that piece of art. Let's see. Telepathy. Okay, psychic. I know there was a lot of psychic stuff in this book. The second Monsters Compendium appendix for AD&D, put out by TSR. Let's just read through this real quick. Miordis are undead guardians from the Green Age who continue to watch over their ancient domains and enforce their ancient laws. These long-forgotten domains once covered the Tyr region and beyond in the time when psionics was the power of the day and the great forests spread across the face of Athos. So it sounds like they are required in the lore to come from this age where everything was green and growing. Forests spread across the face of Athos. I assume is the continent that this is set in. In most cases, all that remains of these domains are the Miordi crypts and the memories of these undead guardians. Miordis only emerge to punish those who violate the ancient laws. Okay. Sort of like mummies so far, except... No, they're almost exactly like mummies. The artists are gaunt, mummified corpses that are either wrapped in moldy cloth or wear rotting burial clothing befitting their station. They're always adorned with ancient jewelry of elaborate workmanship. They usually carry the weapons they wielded in life. Their eyes glow bright green embers and move with regal grace. So a lot of green theme. They're really leaning into that. They have deep, reverberating voices, but seldom speak, except to announce the crimes for which they are about to punish trespassers. I like that. They only speak when they are telling you that you're trespassing. They're telling you what you did wrong. Let's go over to our notes. Put in Miordi. Undead from the Green Age. I don't know. I don't have a thing like that in my world where there was an age where everything was fertile. So let's say undead from Ancient Era. We can reflavor that however we want later, depending on what kind of Ancient Era we want these people to come from. Loyal guards of the customs that they partook in. They guard their own culture, basically. Loyal guards of the ancient cultures. And their tombs. Because they mentioned that the only thing that these Miordi were protecting were these tombs. So, that was pretty... I don't know where it was, but they do have tombs, they know psionics, and the only time they speak is to condemn or announce the crimes of the trespassers. So they're like these ancient... Their motives are immovable. They are still beholden to whatever laws of this long-dead civilization they believed. So in combat, when someone actually gets to the tomb, what happens? A Miordi usually teleports somewhere near those who have violated its ancient laws and approaches in a calm manner. It calmly informs the offenders of the laws they have violated and asks them to accept their punishments with honor. That's never going to go over well. Not with an adventuring party. Although I do really like that. That could definitely go into either a very, very dark vein where, you know, this Miordi, this creature in old clothing walks up to you, and the closer they get, you realize that they are undead, but they don't seem to be threatening. And from a distance, they speak with this reverberating voice, and they announce the party's punishments. They know what's coming, especially since like this thing is going to. Hey, Cadence, good to see you made it. Seeing this Miordi is going to terrify the party, especially since, you know, I'm announcing that you are going to be killed by me for trespassing in this area. So this Miordi is giving up the advantage of a surprise round or anything like that just because of that, and I think that's totally worth it. If you want to come at it from a comedian's perspective, you could say, oh yes, I'm definitely going to kill you, please lay down and die for me. Yes. And either way, I think that you could do a lot with this sort of undead creature. So I'm definitely putting that in the notes. Let's see, tab that over. Tab this over. They're undead from an ancient era. Let's see. Morty. Morty. Miordi always announce the crimes of those they will punish before combat. And ask that they accept the punishment with honor. So, I like this a lot, but it's not going to end up being anything more than a bit of flavor for that little bit of roleplay right before the initiative is rolled. But let's continue on through their stat block. Those who refuse to allow themselves to be slaughtered at the hands of the Miordi are attacked. Yeah. A Miordi uses its psionic powers against opponents, especially domination. Okay, so dominate person once per day, probably. Psionics, dominate person. What else do they do? Especially domination. If physical violence is required, a Miordi attacks with the weapons it wielded in life or its fists. Okay, so it does have, like, actual weapons, but they're not anything special. They can only be hit by a +1 or better magical weapon, by spells with psionics, or by creatures with more than 6 hit dice or magical properties. Okay, so they've got a whole bunch of immunities, and wow, okay, so definitely resistances. Weapon damage, so bludgeoning, piercing, slashing, that is not magical. Non-magical weapon damage. What else? We've got... What other things? Let's see. Condition immunities, and we'll get to that. Polymorph, cold, electricity, insanity. So, cold damage, lightning damage, and necrotic damage. Resistant to all of those. That's a bit nuts. That's a kind of a big spread and a strange combination. So it should throw off any casters that might be, you know, someone uses lightning bolt. Usually that's fine against undead, but not in this case. Cold, lightning, T-N-I-N-G. Yeah, and necrotic. Condition immunities. Those are going to be charm. What else did they have in there? I know most of these don't translate well to 5th edition. Sleep, enfeeblement, polymorph. Those are all spells, not conditions. Yeah, there's a prerequisite for that. Why don't we just have them be immune to the spells? That can work. Immune to these spells. Sleep, polymorph, and rave enfeeblement. Just like a strange detail. It's probably never going to come up if this gets used, being immune to rave enfeeblement. But I think it's still worth putting in there, just to give it a little bit more flavor. Because this strange undead creation of like an ancient culture is not going to be the same as the undead creation that is used by necromancers in the modern day, inside the homebrew world, obviously. So they're going to have different resistances, slightly different attributes, because I think it would be cool if not all undead had the same traits. What kind of undead they are depends on when they were made into undead. And I think putting that through and mentioning that would be important. Undead creation from this ancient culture was different, resulting in different undead traits. Cool. Let's see what else we can pull out of this, what was it called? Miortis? These Miorti stat blocks. Magic resistance. Okay, these things are going to be powerful. Like, really powerful, I think. So, magic resistance in 5th edition is like advantage on saves against magic. Advantage versus spells. What's the other one? Oh, usually it's weapon attacks are magical. Let's just put that in there too. Okay, what else does this thing do? So it can teleport. Let's give it a 3 per day Misty Step, maybe. On probably 60 feet of telepathy, because that mentioned that it could do telepathy. What else? Miortis retain the powers. Let's zoom in so you guys can see more of this. Miortis retain the powers and abilities of their character class in life. Oh, okay. Most of these ancient guardians are psionicists, though they can also be fighters. As they come from the age before magic, there are no Miorti wizards. Interesting. I don't know if I'll keep that. I'd have to make this a specific kind of, you know... I already have the spell effects that they're going to be doing. There's Dominate Person. There is Misty Step. So I think I'm going to keep the... I'm going to get rid of this. There are no Miorti wizards. Miortis have the power to control other ancient undead as 15th level clerics. Okay. There's a couple other things that have that ability. I think the Mummy Lord is one of them. And I think that is the best stat block to use as a base for this. So, because it's an ancient undead that can control other ancient undead, it is embalmed and has like this, the way it's different, it has this telepathy and psionic abilities. I haven't figured out exactly what those are yet, because I don't understand how psionics works in AD&D. I mean, it was like here, telepathy, sciences, domination, mind link, psionic blast, mass domination, devotions, awe, contact, ego whip, id insinuation. I don't know what any of this means. So I will probably have to go back through here when I'm actually creating this and find spells that are similar to what the Miorti abilities in here are, the psionic ones. So there are other psionic things that say, oh, you can do this as psionics, but it counts as casting a spell. And heck, the new sorcerer psionic subclass does that. It's just normal casting spells, but you do it with your mind, you know? Let's look through and see if we have anything else in this Habitat Society section. Miortis were created long ago through the necromancies of high priests and through the use of long-lost psionic abilities for the purpose of serving as the protectors of various Green Age domains. Yeah. Each domain selected a guardian to be turned into a Miorti, thus creating a protector to enforce the laws for all time. It no longer matters that the domains and laws that govern them are much dust. The Miortis continue to serve the territories as though they were territories they were bound to by undeath. Yes, that makes sense. They're enforcing long-dead laws, and the players have no idea. There's no way to know what laws they are exactly. So that is creating a entertaining. To enforce the laws for all time. Let's see. No records of the ancient laws. Yeah, the laws are all dead. So invent some strange laws that they will enforce. Invent some strange laws for the Miorti to enforce. Okay, typing is hard. Let's see. Miortis reside in secret subterranean tombs of elaborate design. These tombs are massive and intricate in design, filled with countless undead and ancient treasures. No living beings are permitted to enter the tombs. There's your law right there. Enter the tomb, get attacked. That's how it works. They're going to enforce that because that's their whole shtick. Those who trespass are hunted down relentlessly and destroyed by the offended Miorti and its undead minions, and as is anyone else who learned about the tomb and its location. Okay, so when the party enters the tomb, that's the moment when they are in danger. They can probably get surrounded and then trapped in. Yeah. Surrounds and kills any intruders. Huts. NTS. Down anyone who knows of the tomb. Okay. Sorry, I might be coming down with a cold. I hope not. So I apologize for the constant sniffling. Yes, that is extremely deeply archived now, Cadence. I know it exists somewhere. There's got to be someone who knows about it, but I'm not going to go out of my way to try to figure out how it works, because there's a reason they got rid of psionics pretty much for 4th and 5th edition. I know it exists in 3.5, as one of my friends likes to remind me, but not in 5th. Not as its own, thing to be learned. It doesn't have unique rules at all. Let's see. What else can we pull from this Miorti stat block? Alrighty. Ecology. Miortis possess information concerning the ancient history of Athos. Living beings are rarely in a position to question a Miorti about its knowledge. If a living being makes contact with one, it's almost always because the living one somehow violated the laws that this Miorti enforces. So they're under attack. Interrogating one of these things is basically impossible. Let's see. Oh, and these are just... It gives stories of different Miorti. Okay. It gives us... Oh god, that was fast. It scrolled a bit too much. So, Protector Drelto of Antalos. Not sure how to pronounce that. This guy has claws, special undead weakness. Ooh, spell susceptibility, sunlight susceptibility. Okay. So they're kind of leaning into the fact that every single one of these Miorti is going to be unique to its old characters. So I'm going to put that in the notes as well. Because they're going to retain a lot of their old identity. Retain a lot of old identity and abilities. So Miorti are going to have to be built one at a time, each individually, because of that changing abilities. They're not all the same. You can't just like throw this stat block on all of them. I don't think it really matters unless you're going to do more than one of these things. Like if you got a campaign that is looking into this ancient culture for some reason, these Miortis are going to be guarding all of the locations for this culture, right? So you're going to run into multiple Miordis. You're going to run into this doll guy. You're going to run into, or this Drelto guy, and this Orella, Lawkeeper of Bodak. This lady right here, I assume. So each one of these is going to have to be built on its own if you're using more than one. So I think I'm just going to build the one for now. And I won't do that now, because that's the boring stuff. I don't want you guys to have to sit through all that. Let's move on to the next one. Let's see. Back to table of contents. And let me know if you guys see any names that you would like me to look at, because there's a lot in this book. I've done a lot of them already. I did the Cylops up here. There's this one-eyed centipede slithering tracker sort of thing. Really big, sort of like a purple worm, but a centipede, and good at tracking stuff. It was cool. I also did these Dray. It's actually a sub-race, not a monster, of like underground, brand new Dragonborn. That were created by an individual dragon, and I'm going to change that when I actually write it up and put them in my world. They'll just be extra race. You got dark dwarves, dark drow, you got deep gnomes. Why don't you have deep dragonborn? The deep dragon exists, right? They should have a deep dragonborn as well. Thanks for joining, Greg. Always good to see you on these. We should connect one of these times. I got to connect with you about the holiday special that we're planning to do between our channels. I'm super excited for that. Let's see. What else have we done already? Oh, here it is. The para-elemental beast, rain elemental. This is the thing that literally, it sucks up water as it goes over it. So if this waterfall elemental is basically just this constant flow of water through the air, and if it stops in one place, it just goes into a circle and continues moving constantly. It does damage to you by getting close, and if it gets close to a riverbed, it's going to suck up all the water from that river and into itself and just grow bigger and more powerful. If you get close to it, it's going to suck out your blood from a slight distance and yank you along with it because your blood is still inside you. And I just think that's nuts. That's so crazy. It's like an elemental that knows blood bending. Super dark, really cool ideas that you could throw that into. I haven't done the stat block for that one yet, but that is next on my list. We also looked at the scorpions from this guy. What else have we... We looked at the old Thry-Kreen and Tor-Kreen, which are basically just different kinds of Thry-Kreen. I didn't really like the Tor-Kreen. I was excited for it and got disappointed, to be honest. There was a couple other really cool ones that we had. Like the Fail. Where is it? The Fail. Here it is. So this thing was, I already have the stat block all up and ready to go on my, if you scroll down in my YouTube channel's community tab, you can find it there. I believe it's also up for free on my Patreon, link in the description. And this undead is basically like an undead glutton. So it will be someone that died and got raised, and this person is, this giant, like, maybe a lord or something that just ate and ate and ate in life and wants to continue eating in death. And so they'll sneak into parties, and there is no way to tell that they are undead. Magic cannot detect their undead nature, and it only shows up once people notice that this thing is not talking to anyone, it's just eating, and it's not stopping. It will gorge itself to the point of vomiting everything back up and then keep eating. And once that happens, people get freaked out, running around the party, screaming, and then someone's going to have to confront this Fail, and at this point the Fail will attack when someone gets between it and its food. So that stat block is all made up for you, transported over from this AD&D book to 5th edition by yours truly. I haven't run any of them yet. If you want to, please do, and let me know how that goes in the comments down below. And yes, that would be amazing if one of you could take that on. I would be super happy to see my creations actually being used by people. I haven't yet, but they're fun to make, so I'm going to keep doing it regardless. Let's see. I think I had my eye on this one that we didn't get to last time. There are a whole lot of golems. Yes, the salt golem, but I think first we're going to go with the shadow giant here and see what exactly that is. Giant, comma, shadow. Okay. Oh, that's kind of freaky. Look at this thing. I know it's not that... It's pretty grainy, since the book is old, but this is cool. I think they don't... In the art, at least. Yeah, this guy has sort of like a tail, like a genie, coming out of a lamp, but there's no lamp. It's just floating. It's got like this sort of smoke coming out of its mouth. Let's see what's special about this guy. Shadow giants, or shadow people, as they prefer to call themselves. That makes sense. Let's see, I'm gonna get a drink before I go through all this. I'm getting parched. They are descendants of the halflings who served Rajat the Warbringer during the Cleansing Wars. Wait, what? Giants that are the descendants of halflings. Okay. They appear either as shadowy, two-dimensional, vaguely humanoid-shaped silhouettes with ropey limbs, serpentine torsos, and blue embers in the place of eyes. That's cool. I love that eye detail. Shadow giants, descended from halflings. Blue embers for eyes. Hi Jason, thanks for joining. This is not the Fiend Folio. This is actually, let's see, we'll get back to this spot in a second. Page 40 something. This is the Dark Sun Monstrous Compendium Appendix 2. So it's just this super obscure book that I have a physical copy of. It's the oldest D&D publication I own. Old enough where it wasn't Wizards of the Coast, it was actually TSR that published this in... I don't remember. We looked up the year last time I started going through this stuff. 95, it looks like. So this thing is almost as old as I am. But yeah, we're just going through this and looking at these crazy monsters that they had for AD&D, and looking at what nutty things they came up with in the 90s for all of this nonsense. And some of this stuff is really, really cool. Fred. How's it going, Fred? Dark Sun is something you love, but players hate. Yeah, I get the feeling with that. Everyone, if you have not checked out the How to D&D YouTube channel, you should go do that. If you stick around to the end of this stream, I think I have all the text set up right, where you will be redirected right back to Fred's NPC class, I believe he's doing today. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that, Fred. But go check out How to D&D once this stream is over. Love his content. His live streams have been fantastic every time I joined. Just an absolute joy to watch Fred do his work. Right now, though, Shadow Giants. Let's see. Descended from halflings, shadowy, two-dimensional, vaguely humanoid. How big are they? If they're descended from halflings, they can't be that big. Organization, diet, intelligence, treasure, movement, Thaco. Size. Large to huge. 10 feet to 25 feet tall. Okay. And they're supposed to be Okay, okay. They are aptly named by not themselves. They are intelligent though, which is interesting, because if you look at the art, it looks like just, you know, this mindless undead sort of wandering around. But if you look at intelligence, it's high. Like, normal would be humans. So it's more intelligent than a normal humanoid, which is interesting. It depends on how many there are, but they could have their own society in the world. And I'm starting to get ahead of myself. So let's get back to what exactly they are before we start building a society for them. Bright light adds size and depth to a shadow giant. The brighter the light source, the larger the shadow giant appears. Okay, in full sunlight, a shadow giant can grow to 25 feet. That's interesting. So it's exactly the opposite of, you know, the actual shadow creatures in D&D. Let's see. Light increases their size. That's crazy. So maybe a medium creature if we're porting this over to 5th edition, we could say it's a medium creature in normal light, or in complete darkness, a large creature in dim light, and a huge creature in full light, bright light, sunlight. That's crazy. Medium, large, huge, darkness, dim, bright. Okay. That might be hard to track as a DM, because I know most DMs, myself included, don't actually track how big a radius is when someone's like carrying a torch through a dungeon or has cast light on a stick or something. So that could be difficult to do as a DM, but I will go back and try to figure out rebalancing. If you guys have any ideas, let me know. Jason, in Dark Sun, weren't halflings cannibals? So essentially they evolved into shadow ghouls. Maybe the halflings should have, yeah, halfling right here. Let's see. This book does have an entry for halflings. Let's see. Combat. Yes, strict carnivores. Halflings tend to view all animals, including humans, and their ilk as lunch. So they don't eat other halflings. But I would still consider cannibalism since they're eating other humanoids. That's actually terrifying. I think I'm going to make a note of that on its own. Halflings as cannibals. It's interesting because, like, halflings are supposed to be the nice people, right? I've seen Lord of the Rings. That's what hobbits are. That's interesting to know. Thanks, Jason. I don't know much about AD&D at all, which is why I'm going through this book in the first place. So I don't know. I still don't really have a grasp on how THAC0 works. I've never played in an AD&D game. All I have is this book, really. So I'm just picking out things that I think are cool and throwing them into 5th edition. Because there is a lot of stuff in here that I really enjoy. Hey, Christian, I recognize you from an earlier stream. You would tie the size of the shadow based on dim, darkness, or bright light levels. Having only 3 tied to it would be simpler to check. Yes, that is what I was trying to say. So if it's a medium creature in darkness, a large creature in dim light, and a huge creature in bright light. I think I'm reading your comment correctly. Yeah. The issue I have with this would be like, as it moves through light, or someone carrying light moves, its size would change. Just use the monster lore. Yeah, I have to admit, yes, the weird effects in here have been difficult to port over. There's a lot of similar spell effects that have ported pretty easily in general. But like psionics, there's a huge amount of psionics in this book, and there's just not a scaffolding to use that in 5th edition. You just use spells, but it's psionic, so they don't have verbal components or whatever. Alright, let's see what else we can find out about the Shadow Giant lore. These shadow people speak the ancient languages of and Draxa, and the civilized halfling nations. Yeah, that makes sense, because they used to be halflings. And the common tongue of the Tyr region. Okay. When it speaks, black fumes rise from a blue gash that opens where its mouth would normally rise. So that's what we're seeing here. That's what that image is. It's a shadow giant speaking. And this leads me to believe that their mouths aren't visible unless they're speaking, which is kind of freaky, if I'm being honest. If speaking. Mouths only visible if speaking. Breathe out black cloud. Cool. What else can we pull out of this? I know I'm going to go against your suggestion, Fred. Some of the stuff in here is... Part of the fun of this is trying to figure out if there is a way we can represent the AD&D combat abilities of these creatures in 5th edition. It's tough, and we end up skipping most of them, but there are some gems in here. A shadow giant can strike with both fists, causing damage. A very touch is deadly, so probably its connection to the black. What is the black? Might come up later. That's alright, Christian. We can, if you're on mobile, let me know if you're having difficulty reading this. I assume you would be, because it's gonna be tough. If I can zoom into one column, maybe that'll make it better for you. If not, I'm not sure what else I can do to fix this. Maybe I'll play with my setup for the next time if this doesn't work. Oh, it's another strength sucking. I don't like this. I'm glad they got rid of the ability score damage. So you take 1 point of strength damage. So you have to recalculate what all of your attacks do if you're a strength-based fighter. All of your modifiers change. I'm so glad that they took that out. It exists in 3.5, but I think they took it out as they moved on to 4th. There's... really the only way I can think of to simulate this is a Ray of Enfeeblement spell. Which just gives disadvantage on strength-based checks instead of making you recalculate your modifiers when you get hit. Like, you're already losing damage. You don't need to take more punishment for that. So let's put some strength drain attack. And I'll figure out exactly how to do that later. I'll do some research, see what other people have done in their content. Yes, since shadows in D&D 5e do have it, don't they? Let's see if I can pull up D&D Beyond on this other screen here quick. Shadow. Okay. Strength drain. This is exactly what you were talking about. Strength score is reduced. They still have this. Well, I might use that. I'll put a note in there. I don't like having to recalculate it, like I mentioned, but if it is the only way out, then I might either get rid of this or have that ability that the shadows already claim as their own. Let's see. Moving on to the next paragraph. Most shadow giants favor their more potent strength drain, as opposed to doing this strike with both fists. Yeah. More details about how exactly it works. When a shadow giant grips a target, the blackness spreads slowly from contact point to engulf it. The growing black stain of a shadow giant's touch is accompanied by a cold, numbing pain that draws heat from the body. Okay, grappling attack that does cold damage. I like this. The shadow giant can also pull a target into the black. The nether... Here's what it is. The nether dimension where it normally dwells. So... they are, I guess the best translation for this would be the ethereal plane, probably. So let's note that down. From the ethereal plane. Let's see. What else? There's another thing I was gonna write. Man, my memory is bad today. Grapple attack that does cold damage. And it sounds like it slowly takes them into the plane that they're from, right? It can, yeah, that was that sentence. Can pull the target into the black. Oh, yeah, that's a good point, Jason. Could be the Shadowfell. That plane is, at least, I don't know if it's officially a mirror of the material plane, but I know that it is in my world. Put a question mark by that. Shadowfell's definitely more, you know, on point with its vibe. It literally has shadow in the name, so that's probably the one I'll end up going with. Let's see. If a shadow releases a target, if the shadow giant releases a target in the black, the victim loses its way and can't return to the normal world. Yes. Okay, this is actually perfect because I always I love running like horror games, right? And I read through Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft and the domains of dread with like the mist that permeates throughout all of it between every single domain, and it's like nobody's really sure where they are on the the map of the planes, or at least I'm not. So I've been thinking of where it could show up. So this could be, if this guy's from a domain of dread. No, because those aren't mirrors, are they? If it pulls it, let me start over. In my world, and this hasn't happened yet in any games, and I don't know if it ever will, but in my world, I've decided that the domains of dread are what happens when you travel too much distance inside the ethereal plane. So if you plane shift to the ethereal plane and keep walking, you get further and further away from the material plane and eventually end up in the domains of dread and don't have a way back anymore. So if they pulled them into the ethereal plane, they would get stuck in the black. Victim loses its way, very similar to just going to the domains of dread. People there are just lost. That's the whole point. Pulls people into the domains of dread? Question mark. Because that would be nasty. Like Cadence said, phase spiders can do this too. They grab people, pull them in to the ethereal plane. Well, they don't actually do that, but that's how I have it in my world. If you get grappled by a phase spider and it switches to the ethereal plane, you go with it, and you get stuck there. It's a lot of fun seeing players try to figure that out. Let's move on. Normal weapons and magical weapons of less than +2. Okay, so normal, like, incorporeal. Incorporeal form. So, you know, magic weapons don't really work. Non-magical weapons either don't work or don't really work, depending on how high of a CR it is. It doesn't need... It has all the classic undead stuff. It doesn't require air, food, drink, or sleep. Let's see. For the next... Okay. Normal weapons and magical weapons of a certain enchantment level harmlessly pass through a shadow giant and emerge brittle and covered in darkness. So it's sort of like a rust monster ability. For the next 2d4 rounds, every time the weapon hits something, it must make a successful save or crushing blows. A failed roll indicates the weapon shatters. Yes, okay. Rust monster stuff, but with shadows. I love it. Rust monster stuff, but shadows. Yes. So, hopefully I remember what that means. That's so cool. I don't use rust monsters like at all in my games, so finding this is going to change some things, and my players are not going to like it. Let's see. Yeah, thanks for joining in, Fred, while you could. Don't worry, I'll send this crew over your way if YouTube obeys my commands for once. I haven't actually referred an audience before. Let's see if it works this time. I will definitely be joining in after I'm done here. So, I'll see you in a bit, Fred. Let's see, a failed roll. We got through that. Bright light and light-producing spells. Okay, this is going to be important because these things actually enjoy light, right? Light-producing spells make it larger and more substantial, even healing previously inflicted damage. Okay. Okay. So it not only does it grow in light, it heals in light. I like this. I like this a lot. Okay. Where's that grow in light portion? Light increases their size, and right below that, light also heals them. More light equals more healing. I don't know what details that's going to look like because I can't balance something where I don't even know the CR of it yet. So in this, I won't be actually making the stat block here. This is just me vomiting ideas onto a page that I got from this beautiful, lovely, ancient book. Not ancient, but it's pretty old. Let's see. Continual light. The absence of light, on the other hand, weakens a shadow giant, for without a light source, there can be no shadows. Okay, that has no explanation whatsoever. Maybe does less damage? That might be one too many things. That might be make it too complicated and unfun for the DM to run. I'll put it in there just as an opportunity. So makes the darkness makes them weaker. Question mark, question mark, question mark. Because I don't know if I'm going to keep that. Usually when things this powerful, they just don't have weaknesses. Like people ask, you know, what are this thing's vulnerabilities? Especially new players are like trying to find the weakness of the monster, and just monsters don't really have weaknesses in general in 5th edition. I mean, yeah, you got your vampires and shadows are susceptible to real sunlight. You've got like trolls are vulnerable to fire and acid damage, and a couple like weird actual damage vulnerabilities, but the vast majority of monsters don't have this sort of thing. So I don't know if I'll keep in this vulnerable when in darkness or something like that. Finally, while a shadow giant is immune to sleep, charm, hold, and cold-based spells. Okay, resistance to cold damage probably is how that would translate. Resist cold. It is very susceptible to pure magic. What? The very touch of a defiler or preserver. Don't know what those are. Who has lust gathered. This must be a J. That has to be a typo. Just gathered the life force necessary to cast magic inflicts. Okay, I actually had a similar ability when I rewrote the Nightwalkers for my own campaign. So let me pull up Nightwalkers real quick. Let's see. Nightwalker. So these terrifying guys really are not fun to play around with. They get summoned when someone is transported into the plane of negative energy, and they are just the absence of life. Anything that lives, they just, like, annihilate. I gave these things an ability where, or a vulnerability, I guess you could say, of where casting a spell at them without, like, determining what sort of magic. So, like, I'm going to cast just a spell slot at them instead of an actual spell. Then they automatically take damage equal to, I think it was like twice the level of the spell slot. Not very much. It might have been just, but basically, like, casting magic at them makes them hurt more. And that's, I might do a similar thing with these shadow giants. So their weakness, weak to pure magic. I don't know what that means, but it's a note that I should have. Takes damage from spell slots. Let's see. And I think that's pretty much... No, we got the Habitat Society left first. Reside in the Pristine Tower. This is just about their society, and I'm not here to build a society and build these into the world, like, purely. I'm here to make a stat block. So I don't think any of this, like, Habitat and Society or the ecology, has much to do with the stat block that we can... There's not a whole lot we can pull from it for our stat block. For a long time, one of the noble families of Uruk gave them 100 unblemished balls of obsidian each year. Yeah, no, this is just, like, how they lay eggs, basically. That's very weird. They lay eggs as balls of obsidian. But the ball, they need to have these balls as capsules, put their young in, and then they incubate inside that ball. That is weird. I don't think I need to add that, though. Yeah, let's call that good for Shadow Giants. Oh, wow. I've already been doing this for an hour. This has been fun. Let's see. The other one I really wanted to go over. So we're done with the Shadow Giant. And that will come out in the coming months, is an actual stat block for you guys to use. And I want to look at this Salt Golem. This has caught my eye ever since I had this book, and I've never looked at it. Not even this, actually, kind of beautiful piece of art of what a Salt Golem looks like. Let's see. The Salt Golem is created by powerful defilers and sorcerer kings and is favored by those near the salt flats, yeah, because there's plenty of material. The golem is 8 feet tall, exactly and weighs roughly 600 pounds. It resembles a small rock golem and has opaque color and texture. The most horrifying feature of the golem is its movement. It moves slowly and deliberately, seemingly unaware or uncaring that most other creatures can move faster. Why is that scary? The creature has very low intelligence, but its slow pace bells a confidence that it knows exactly where its quarry will eventually tire. It knows its quarry will eventually tire, while it is inexhaustible. Its eyes are white and opaque. It has a mouth, but the golem cannot speak and is silent unless in motion. Okay, so it moves slowly. That's its thing. It moves slowly. Ooh, special attacks, dehydrate. That's the gold we're looking for. Okay. Combat. Salt golems are lumbering, methodical creatures in combat. Deliver strikes with their fists. Any target hit must make a successful save versus poison, or the golems break the skin of their prey, and minute flakes of salt residue are left behind. Oh, rub salt in the wound. This is literally salt that's punching you. Oh, this causes the victim's pain so severe that he can do nothing but writhe on the ground in agony for 1d4 rounds. Wow. Okay. That's kind of big. Alright. Salt golems. Move slowly. The Creeping Dread. Is that a monster that exists in 5th edition? A stat block we could use? Or this is just what these things are going to be named? Move slowly. And fist attacks cause pain. Attacks rub salt in wounds. And my first thought for how we're going to port this into 5th edition, instead of having like the 1d4 rounds thing, I don't really like that. Instead, we're going to have it a con save, or be, I don't know if we want to make it poison or just incapacitated. Because I know the drow poison, if you fail by more than 5, it knocks you unconscious. And I want the same thing for this, except if you fail by more than 5, you are incapacitated until the end of your next turn. But do we want that to be the actual effect, or do we want there to also be poisoning involved? Should the poison condition apply here? I don't know. We'll write down the -5. The fail by 5 means, let's see, fail by 5 equals incapacitated. Incapacitated for 1 round. Poison condition? Question mark. We'll figure that out in a bit. Yeah, no, that is creepy. Just what the salt golem is like. You can run, but you can never rest, because you need to get far enough away where the salt golem, you can rest in order for the salt golem to not be able to catch up to you. But how far away is that? And can they move faster? You'll never know. So it could be kind of terrifying if it is chasing you, just this constant. You know, it reminds me of that episode in Avatar: The Last Airbender. I think it's called The Train, where Azula and Ty Lee and May are on a train chasing, the main party on Appa. And they can't sleep because this train is just so persistently chasing them. And that's the sort of vibe I think they're going for with this Salt Golem persistence that they mentioned. Slow, but, slow and steady wins the race. In this case, slow and steady kills you. But yeah, I get that. I get that vibe. Could have some fun with that. Let's put a note here. I'm just putting exactly what you put in the chat, Cadence. It was good. You can run, but never rest. Maybe even put quotes around it, because that might be a good NPC line. Alright. Moving on to next. Salt golems. Blah, 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 blah. Words are hard. In case you were wondering, we are currently listening to Michael Gelfi Studios music. Go check out their stuff. It is fantastic. Huge, you know, like, I think they have over 1,000 ambiances by now. And that's just their ambiances. They also have been doing this music for years. And I live and die by this, you know, background sound for playing in my games. You can hear it on my actual plays on my channel. You can hear it on pretty much all of my live streams. Their music has been great, and I just throw it on whenever I'm writing D&D. It's been really helpful. And no, they didn't sponsor me or anything. They just are amazing, and you should use their stuff as much as I do, because it's brilliant. But moving on to salt golems. They can dehydrate one opponent once every 5 rounds by wrapping their powerful arms around the target for 1 round. Oh, this is reminding me of another completely different reference. I talked about it on a call with the Initiative Order, which is a group of streamers for D&D. And we were talking about, it was Halloween, and we were talking about what scary movie, like, scarred you as a child. My answer was, there's a specific episode of Star Trek where there's this alien that kills you by sucking all the salt out of your body through your face. And I get the kind of vibe, maybe it's just the salt theme, but this thing can dehydrate someone completely. What happens when they do that? If the construct rolls they have the target in their arms, salt of the golem burns any skin it touches for points of what kind of damage? They really like damaging grapples. There's like 3 of these creatures have had damaging grapples. Damaging, dehydrating, grapples. Sorry about that. Let's see. If they have damaging, dehydrating grapples, what does it do? Points. Such attacks are fairly rare, though, because they cause the golem damage, because it's water. I don't know if I want to do that, because then they might get the idea that if they throw water on this thing, they can just kill it, and that's not quite how it works. Could have an aging effect. I like that, Christian. Could have an aging effect due to the salt until you immerse yourself in water. Huh. I feel like that's... I mean, yeah, these things are magical. That would be kind of extreme. I think more of, like, the aboleth has an ability where its mucus makes you need water. And that's the kind of thing I think might fit best. So if you pull up the aboleth real quick. Let's see. Mucus cloud. While underwater, surrounded by mucus, a creature that touches the aboleth on a failure, the creature is diseased. For this diseased creature can only breathe underwater. So it was a water breathing sort of thing. Might have been different. Is there a legacy aboleth? Did they change it with the new Mordenkainen's Monsters release? There it is. Here's what it is. The tentacle. Okay, it's not the mucus cloud, it's the tentacle attack. After 1 minute, the diseased creature's skin becomes translucent and slimy. The creature can't regain hit points until it is underwater, and the disease can only be removed by a heal spell or a disease curing spell of 6th level or higher. When the creature is outside a body of water, it takes 6 acid damage every 10 minutes unless moisture is applied to the skin. That's what I'm going for. That need for moisture should be the effect of this dehydrating thing. So let's put in here that should it be lasting? Because your suggestion, Christian, was to have the aging effect until you immerse yourself in water, which could be a long time, especially if you're actually in the dark sun setting, because it's all desert. Damaging dehydrating grapples. Let's do... When dehydrated, you are diseased with the Aboleth's tentacle effect. And I will copy paste that in here real quick so I know what I was talking about when I go back and look at this. There we go. That'll be fun for the DM, not for the players. Okay, let's see. On to the next. Immune to electricity, cold, and fire. Fire-based attacks further fuse the individual. When struck by fire, magic or other, salt golems heal. Okay. Fire absorption. Like iron golems have in 5th edition. To immunity to cold and lightning. And probably the classic golem stuff, like immutable form, so it can't have its form changed by like a polymorph spell or anything like that. Water and water-based attacks dissolve the creatures, however. Okay, so we are going to actually put that water thing in here. And the prereq we're going to use for this is the fire elementals water damage stuff. So fire elemental water weakness. And then I'll find that quick, copy paste it in. What was it exactly? I think it's like measured by how many gallons of water you put on it. Water susceptibility. For every 5 feet the elemental moves in water, or for every gallon splashed on it, it takes 1 cold damage. Okay. Okay, it can't be cold if the salt golem's immune to cold damage. What type of maybe acid damage? I don't think it matters a whole lot, as long as it actually takes the damage. Put that in caps. So it takes acid damage instead of cold damage when moving through water. Let's see what else this can give us. Instead of being damaged by water, it could lose its speed and resistance to attacks. That way you're not trying to measure the tidal wave spell. Yeah, that would be annoying. I feel like you're speaking from experience on that one, Christian. So that could be more fun. I like that, because I don't want to have to measure how many gallons are in a tidal wave spell, like you said. So instead of this, we'll have... loses its... what sort of resistances? So it loses its cold and lightning immunities. When wet, loses cold and lightning immunities. And I think that works flavor-wise as well, because if you've got the... If you're covered in water and you get hit with a blast of cold, especially from like a spell, yeah, that's gonna be nasty. Cold and wet, bad combination. Cold and hit by like an electrical shock, also terrible. So this actually makes perfect sense. The question is, how much do we want to just have it losing immunity? Do we want to have immunity change to resistance? Do we want to make it vulnerability instead? I think it would be fun if it was vulnerability. But would the golem know to get itself unwet? Because its intelligence is pretty low, right? Intelligence, semi-intelligence, so a little bit more intelligent than an animal. So I don't think it would be able to put together the reason it's taking all this extra damage is because it's wet, and it wouldn't actively look in combat to get itself dry again. Let's see. Yeah, let's just lose his cold and lightning immunity. Let's keep it as that for now. I might make changes depending on how difficult of a monster I want this to be in combat. Maybe if I want it to be harder, I'll make it just lowered from immunity to resistance, but we shall see. What else we got? Even if the golems are just walking through water, or create water, yep, water weakness. To attack golems. What? To attack golems, the caster must make a successful barehanded attack to touch the creatures. I don't like that. I don't know what it means, and therefore I don't like it. I know I'm being biased, but I don't want to have to port that piece over. I don't think that would add anything to the creature we're creating. It wouldn't make it any more fun to fight or to run. Creation. This is all specific, you know, how to create. I don't think a whole lot of... I don't think it's worth it to go through and make a creation process for 5th edition in this. Just because that sort of thing doesn't actually matter a whole lot unless the players are trying to create one themselves. Or if someone in the world is like mass producing salt golems, which both sound like really fun things, but right now we're just making the stat block, not the lore. Habitat society, yep, remain motionless. More vulnerable than most golems, so there are fewer of them. So weaker than most, okay, that's good to know. Salt golems have no effect on Athasian ecology as they are magically created beings. Okay, cool. That's done with the salt golem, and man, I don't know how much longer I want to go. We'll take it another 40 minutes, bring us to the top of the hour maybe, because I'm having a lot of fun. Usually when I jump on this, I'm like, I'll stream for an hour, it's whatever, but I'm having a lot of fun right now. And that's what usually happens when I jump on and chat and hang out with you guys, is I'm like, okay, I feel like I haven't been putting out any videos lately, and I just want to, I miss my fans, I miss my audience, you know? So, besides having the Discord server, which has been a great time with everyone in there, I wanted to start doing more of these streams, and according to the poll I put out, this is what people wanted, so I had no problem with that at all. Are you guys seeing anything that you really want to work on? I've been looking at these horrors, like this silt horror, black, silt horror magma, silt horror red, silt spawn. Alright, Night Cadence, thanks for dropping in. Really appreciate it. Always a joy to have you in the chat for my streams. Stalking horror also sounds interesting. Or maybe I'm just still in the Halloween mood and want to do horror stuff. Racked Spirit. What the heck is that? An obsidian retriever? Is that anything like a normal retriever? Let's Let's go with these silt horrors first. So, QRS silt horror black. Oh, yeah. Don't like that. Well, actually, I love it, but it's terrifying. Let's see. Semi. So, smarter than an animal, not nearly as smart as a person. How big are they? Can't tell from the picture. Diet carnivore. Yeah, that makes sense. Size. Medium. 4 feet long. So, quite big. They're not exactly, you know, pests. Let's see. They've got telepathy and all of that psionic stuff, which makes sense. I feel like a lot of Lovecrafty and stuff like this is going to have psionics. Let's see what else. The black silt horror is the smallest. 4 feet long and it's the smallest. Okay, now I'm excited. Smallest and most common of the silt horrors, resembling a black dusty octopus or a squid with a writhing mass of 8 barbed tentacles. The black horror is obviously blah 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 blah. The black horror is obviously related to other horrors. It is much smaller than other silt horrors and roams in groups called clutches. The black silt horror aggressively hunts anything it can catch. Large clutches have attacked white horrors and wading giants. Oh, those aren't in here. Those has got to be from Appendix 1. I don't want to hop on eBay and find Appendix 1. Combat. Attack with pack tactics. Okay. That's lingo we know. Black silt horror. Medium. 4 feet long. Pack tactics. Okay. Ambushing group. Pursuers rapidly let toward... Oh, this is exactly how they do their tactics. Oh, wow. This is really meta. This is extremely meta. Listen to this. The pursuers rapidly let toward the prey. Jet toward the prey, maybe? To drive the victims toward their clutch mates, who wait beneath the sand. If the tactic works, there is a -2 penalty to their opponent's surprise rolls. Otherwise, they break cover and join... Oh, okay. Join the pursuit. I thought this mentioned a penalty that they mechanically get that everyone does. Like, basically, putting the word flanking into this sort of text block, which means that these creatures are metagaming. They need that advantage. No, I don't think that's what's happening here. Black silt horrors attack with their lashing tentacles. Try to entwine a victim to mobilize it, inflicting damage with a successful attack. So 1 attack per round, because the black horror attacks with all 4 tentacles, and individually the attacks are negligible. Okay. So another grappling attack. God, there's a lot of grappling in this book. Grappling tentacle attack. Let's see what else. The victim must successfully save versus poison or be paralyzed. So more Grell poison. Grappling tentacle attack. Grell poison. Because their poison is weak, relatively, and immobilizes certain prey, by paralyzing them if you fail the con save. Let's see. Entwines the victim with tentacles, pinning 1 to 4 limbs. Pinning as many limbs as it can to the victim's body, basically. The silt horror automatically hits entwined victims each round, so yeah, it's like a bite attack for like T-Rex or something, or the Tarrasque. It releases entwined victims if it is reduced to 8 hit points or less. So it knows when to run away, which makes sense with like this slightly more intelligent than animals intelligence. score. When fleeing combat, the Black Silt Horror can direct its air jet to create an impenetrable cloud of dust covering its escape, and any creature caught in the dust must make a successful save versus breath weapon or be blinded. Okay. So I think the dust method has a similar thing that we could steal for this. Dust method. The dust method's breath weapon is blinding breath. Okay. Yeah, we'll use that. That's good. Let's say when this thing uses its action to dash. Everything that it moves next to has to make this save. Probably con save versus blindness, right? Okay. Habitat Society. Matriarchal Society. Weird calling it a society with their low intelligence. Once a year, these creatures from the Sea of Silt migrate to the same spot where they were born. 2-week mating ritual. Separate into their clutches. Interesting. But again, nothing from Habitat Society or Ecology to add into a stat block. That's pretty scary. Do we want to... You guys let me know if you would rather look at other things in here, because there's a huge number of animals. Well, there's actually some animals in here. But there's a huge number of monsters that we can look at from this AD&D book to tie up into a 5th edition stat block. But for now, I'm just going to go on to the next Silt Horror. Ooh, God. I mean, I know I was expecting, with horror in the name, I was expecting something nasty, but that's straight up an Oberith. That's what we're looking at. That's straight out of a Lovecraft novel. Okay. Climate, any volcanic terrain. Very intelligent. Okay, let's keep that in mind. This thing knows what it's doing. It's also huge, 25 feet long. Alright. Let's get something started for this thing. Magma Silt Horror. Huge, 25 feet long. Very intelligent. Alright. Let's see what it's got. The magma horror inhabits areas that are rife in volcanic activity. It is a blood red color, deepening to black near the top of its head. It has 8 tentacles that can grow as long as 25 feet. Unlike the other horrors, the magma horror is very intelligent and has formidable psionic abilities. Because the magma horror has no eyes, it uses its psionic powers to sense the presence of prey. So, telepathic and blind sight. That's what I got from that paragraph. Let me know if you guys found anything else that might work in a 5th edition stat block. Combat. The magma silt horror lies in wait in pools of magma, hot springs, fumaroles, and geysers. Don't know what a fumarole is, but I assume it's a hot body of water. The horror uses its psionic abilities to sense the presence of prey and to lure that prey to it. Periodically, the horror activates its life detection and clairvoyance psionic abilities. Okay. So let's change that into knowledge of things in its lair, because this thing's obviously going to be like a legendary creature. Legendary creature with lair. Knows the location of all living things in its lair. Let's just make that a passive instead of like actively checking. Make it like the clairvoyance spell or something. I think this is more as a regional effect or a layer effect and make that easier. If a creature large enough to be considered a meal is sensed, the magma horror attempts to establish psionic contact with its target and communicate with it using its mind, link, and send thoughts. Okay, can communicate with anything. Telepathic, 1 mile. Or, no, let's make it telepathic 120 feet. And, or anywhere in its lair. Should we extend blind sight to anywhere in its lair? Maybe. Blind sight 60 feet probably. That would make it tough for the rogue to hide, that's for sure. How are you going to stealth from blind sight? Telepathic blind sight. Okay. Once the prey is in range, so that contacts big meals, convinces them to approach, and then the prey, once it's in range, the stilt horror launches its attack. It attacks with all 8 arms, hoping to wrap a tentacle around the target. If the horror succeeds, it ensnares the unfortunate creature. Any creature caught in a tentacle suffers additional damage from probably, normal fiery attack stuff, because it's, lives in magma and geysers. Let's see. Tries to drag the victim. A successful open door roll allows the victim to stand his ground and not be dragged into magma. That is a strange use for that roll. Maybe it could be named better. At least they obviously thought so, because that's doesn't exist as rolls in later editions, as far as I know. For a victim to escape, the tentacle must be severed. Must be. Okay. Can grapple. Another grappling creature. God. Really like chomping down on these things and keeping them in one place. Grappling attack to escape. The tentacle must be severed. Maybe like, I know the Kraken has an ability like this. It's like takes 20 damage. No, it was the Hydra's heads. They take a certain amount of damage. They get a head cut off. 15 to 20 damage in a round in a single attack. Don't know. If the magma stilt horror is in danger of losing... Ooh. Yes, okay. I'm in the right spot. If the magma silt horror is in danger of losing the combat or more than half of its tentacles, it uses its steam jet to escape. And that is just begging for the dragon turtle's steam breath attack. So let's make that like a legendary action. That costs all 3 for sure. Dragon turtle steam breath probably not as powerful. What's the word? Weakened Dragon Turtle Steam Breath? What's the word when they tone down a stat block to be used against weaker parties? Weakened, reduced. I'm trying to remember and I can't. We'll just put weakened for now. If you guys think of it and are have more brain cells than I do right now, let me know in the chat. So the weakened Dragon Turtle Steam Breath and move without provoking attacks of opportunity. Less steamy Dragon Turtle Breath. You got the steamy Dragon Turtle Breath, and then you got this thing which can do like a less steamy version. Scale, so scaled down, scaled back. Alright, weakened means the same thing. It gets my point across. I think I'm just going to keep it for now. Yeah, hey Alex, it's good to see you. I haven't seen your name come across the chat in a while. Glad you could join. Let's see. So that's its escape plan. If the magma, yep, if it's in danger, versus breath weapon or go in a cloud of steam, yeah. The magma horror is immune to all heat-based and fire-based attacks, but suffers double damage from all cold-based attacks. I think in this case, I don't know. I'll still put a question mark by it, but clear fire immunity and cold vulnerability, question mark. Oh, and obviously swim speed. I don't know if I wrote that earlier. Because the thing lives in geysers and magma. Needs to be able to swim. Alright, and moving on to the red silt horror. Okay, I know these things don't have eyes, but tell me that this doesn't look like... This right here doesn't just look like a creepy Muppet with like weird eye stalks and a distressed look on his face. I really hope that I'm actually recognizing that. Okay, Alex, thanks again. So basically what I'm doing is I'm going through this AD&D publication, the Monsters Compendium Appendix 2 from the Dark Sun setting. This book came out in the 90s, and I am just going through it. I know nothing, basically nothing, about AD&D and its lore and its monsters, and I'm looking through this stuff, and I'm taking... I'm taking basically these monsters and doing my best to port the coolest ones or the coolest parts of them over to a 5th edition stat block. This is just the beginning of... No, not familiar with it. This is just the beginning of a longer process that I'll do behind the scenes. I've done this already a couple times, like the fail, F-A-E-L, that I posted for free on my Patreon and also on my community tab. That is this monster from this book, and it's like this gluttonous undead that infests parties and can't be detected by magic. So I have his stat block. I made it. I put it up. Living Wall. Yeah, I've heard stories, and it's not in this book, so we won't get to it. But I think that would be a fun one to port as well at some point. But yeah, if you want to see an example of what a finished product would look like, my Patreon has this guy, this beautiful man, up on there in his stat block. Pretty low CR. because it's just a, like, you know, a single undead with no super special powers, just eats real good. But this part of the process is just coming up with ideas for, like, what I could port and what would make a good monster in 5th edition. So translating psionic abilities into, are they casting spells? Are they just have a telepathy range? Stuff like that. Back to the silt horrors, the red one. Okay, this one is low intelligence, which is higher than the black one, which was semi-intelligent. This one also has an air jet, just like that. And this one is large, so bigger than the 4-foot last one. These are 12. Let's see. The red silt horror is the most mobile of the horrors. Okay, right away. Let's make its speed faster. Red silt horror. 40 to 50 foot speed. Able to propel itself across the surface of Athos using 4 tentacles that can support its weight. So it doesn't slither. It like walks almost with these weird things. The red silt horror is one of the smaller horrors, measuring about 12 feet long. Yes, tiny. This creature gets its name from the scarlet hue of its leathery hide. Yeah, we can tell. The red silt horror tries to lure prey using its psionic abilities to establish contact with its core, just like the magma horror we just went over. It uses either telepathic devotion attraction or its ESP, I assume those are actual AD&D abilities, to discover what the victim desires most. Once that desire is determined, it uses false sensory input to create a complete sensory image of the desired object. So basically phantasmal force. Force a couple times per day, maybe 3 per day. Uses it to create something that they desire. Uses to lure prey to trap. Right? Dark Sun and its psionics. It's all over this frickin' book. I've been mostly just turning it into normal spell casting because there's no set of rules for how psionics are supposed to work in 5th edition, and you know, that's not a problem. I'm okay with how it is right now. I don't need it to be more complicated. Let's see. Once the red horror lures a creature close, this aggressive creature launches its attack. Initially, it attempts to hit the victim with its 8 tentacles. If the horror succeeds its attack roll by 4 or more, the intended victim is entangled by one of the tentacles. Each round thereafter, the ensnared creature receives damage every round. Again, gets rid of the use of this victim's limbs. Can escape by using a successful bend bars / lift gates roll. Ah, yes. Great athletics check name. Let's see. A victim can escape the tentacles with lift gates roll. Yeah, sorry about that. Had to have a dinner conversation. I'm starting to get hungry. And my lovely, lovely girlfriend is cooking for me, and I have no idea what she's doing. So, attacks that miss against an entwined tentacle require an additional attack to roll to see if the silt horror's victim has been hit instead. I don't really like that sort of effect, like holding a hostage between you and someone with a gun. I don't like putting that into the rules in D&D, so I think I'm gonna skip that just because it gets complicated, and I find that players can get upset in situations like that when they are forced to do damage to each other when they're trying to hit an obvious enemy. Let's see. Well, yeah, not quite everything in here has had psionics. Like, there's some domesticated animals, for example. Those didn't have psionics, thankfully. But yeah, it is heavy psychic vibes in this book. On any round, the tentacle gets hit. It also bites. Paralyzing poison. More Grell poison. Okay. Because Grell have that, you know, paralysis poison as well. Maybe this stuff is probably going to be a bit more potent than a Grell, which is a CR, like, somewhere between 2 and 5, I think. Let's see. If it has 10 hit points remaining, it escapes. Versus breath weapon, a cloud of silt or sand. So this one also has the dust method breath weapon escape tactic. That the black silt horrors have. Okay, except this one's bigger, so it's going to be, you know, a higher DC and all that stuff. Nothing from Habitat and Society and Ecology, I'm assuming this time. And let's see. I don't think I want to go through Silt Spawn, because I do want to be done with this in 10 minutes. So, and I wanted to go through the stalking horror. Get rid of all these horrors before. What the heck? What is this? This is comical. It's like a pillow, except it has too many eyes and tentacles. It's like a gibbering mouther without mouths. This is nuts. Moonstone, magical items, the moon beast. The heck is this thing? Stalking horror. Okay, let's start. As always, plenty of psychokinesis, psychometabolism, all this psionic stuff. The stalking horror, also known as the moon beast, is one of the most feared creatures on Athos. Few have seen one and survived to describe it. Those who escape are usually so addle-brained that their words make little sense. The only reported sightings are on clear Athasian nights when the moons are in a specific alignment. The stalking horror is believed to be the result of some ancient summoning. So this stuff, yeah, Monsters Inc. It does. It's classic, like, cartoonish monster. It looks like something from Monsters Inc. or, what was it? Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. I feel like this could be a character on that show. I mean, it doesn't look scary. It doesn't. Like, the magma silt horror, that's scary. That's something that I would have nightmares about. But this fucking thing? Why is this the terror of the land? I'm sure we're about to find out from what it can do. It has a large octopoid body with at least 10 tentacles. Octopoid? It's 8-sided? I'm curious. Octopoid. A characteristic or resembling... Oh, it's just like an octopus. Okay, that makes sense. At least 10 tentacles. Within the circle of its tentacles lies its tooth-filled maw. Some witnesses report at least 3 rows of teeth. Its bulbous body is covered with 36 eye stalk. Okay, that's a strangely specific number of eye stalks. Yeah, art did get recycled a lot, and for good reason. But I feel like now with AI art generation, someone could make a better image of this stalking horror. The tentacles are lined with hooks that it uses to grip and rend. Okay. Tentacles that are sharp. Skin, don't really care about its skin. We see how cuddly and purple it looks. Oh, it's got that ooze. So both the slime and its amorphous body allow the beast to pull itself through openings as small as a human-sized doorway. Let's hike that up. Let's just make this an ooze. Just right from the get-go. Maybe an aberration. With the ooze ability. That is definitely spelled wrong. Anyway. With the ability to slip through one. I know it said person-sized doorway, but we're going to lower it to 1 inch. Because that would be terrifying. Just seeing something... How big was it again? Do we even look? 25 feet tall. Yeah. Seeing something as tall as my fucking apartment building slip through a window, like the crack in a window, then that's scary, and I might actually have nightmares instead of... about this thing instead of the other horrors. Alright. Combat. Why is this thing scary? Absolutely devastating in combat and have been known to destroy entire towns. Okay. Back to the top. Oh, too far. Ah. I messed it up again. Oh no, I was in the right spot. Okay. Herds of... domesticated beasts, I assume, kanks, erdland, and even mechilots have been found completely decimated by these voracious eaters. Though the moon beast is usually invisible. What? What? Okay. That changes things. Passive invisibility. Like the stalking horror. Invisible tracker? Fuck. What's it called? Invisible stalker. Invisible stalker. Okay. That's nuts. Something this big and dangerous is just invisible all the time. That's kind of scary. The stalking horror always shows its true form before attacking. In melee, the stalking horror has many attack forms available, like deoxys or something. Let's see. Bunch of damage per strike. Let's see. It can constrict, so another grappling attack. Anything with tentacles is going to have a grapple, right? At least according to Dark Sun Monstrous Compendium Appendix 2. Okay, this is wildly complicated. I don't want to have to write all of this down. It's actually counting how many limbs are being pinned by these attacks. And I don't want to have to figure that out when I'm actually running this thing. I don't know about you guys. Yeah, oh, by the way, this moving building with too many eyes is invisible. Cannot believe they buried the lead on that. So tentacles can be severed. Let's see. Devastating mouths. Oh, cool. They got a Rakshasa thing going on here. Go away. They have a big Rakshasa vibe. And is immune to all spells of less than 3rd level. Immune to 2nd level and lower spells. I don't think that's gonna matter a whole lot. Like, maybe increase that spell limit. Because, like, people aren't gonna be throwing 2nd level spells at this thing. They're gonna be, like, emptying their guns at this terrifying, invisible horror. Innate ability to use Defiler magic. Oh, cool. It gives us all their whole... Okay, this is... Wow, that's a lot of spells. Okay, Wall of Fog. I think that's a thing, right? Is that a thing in 5th now? Fog Cloud. I saw Lightning Bolt and Fireball in there. Mirror Image, Dispel Magic, Fireball, Lightning Bolt. Actually, let's just... Okay, let's just copy-paste everything into here. Yeah, I don't care if it's the wrong font right now. Because that's a lot of spells. Especially, like, this thing being able to cast Chain Lightning and Cloud Kill. That's nuts. Okay. On to the next. All spells cast from this should be considered cast by a 12th level caster. A 12th level caster casts what level spells? Actually, you know what? I don't want to add that. That's just going to make it too complicated. They just cast the spells at their base. Let's see. Extraordinary psionic abilities as Fear Aura. Okay, let's nail that in here. Fear Aura. I think there's a couple of creatures with Fear Aura. Maybe a Dragon's Roar. Alright, and... Yes, this is just all psionic stuff. Failure means the victim goes into shock and babbles incoherently for weeks. And I'll throw some insanity stuff in here. Insanity effects ? And I think that will do it for today's stream. This was a lot of fun. I'm definitely going to be doing this more often now. I'll put together... What did we go over today? We went over... Shadow Giants. We went over Salt Golems. And we did 4 different aberration horror things from the Dark Sun setting. I'm feeling good about where all of these are sitting. It is 6 o'clock where I am, so I am going to hop off and get something to eat. If I have everything set up correctly, once I end this stream, you should automatically be redirected to How to D&D's stream, where I believe he is putting together some NPCs as an example for new DMs, old DMs. Love his streams. Go hang out with him. He's a great guy and very good at what he does. But for now, I'll sign off and have to say, remember, everything is going to be okay. Thanks for joining, everyone. Especially you, Alex and Christian. I appreciate all of the help you gave me in the chat today.